Michael!
Come on in, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good to see you, man.
Oh, there it is. Look at that. I haven't seen that painting in years.
Hush, you folks. Hush.
There.
I rented this house to a couple of different people. Well, the one guy met a girl, got married. They had the reception here, and in the background, because my living room used to be so dark that you didn't notice the painting, but in all the wedding photographs it was there, you know? So it's really funny, you know?
Yeah, wedding pictures with the bride and groom, and there's this naked chick with a snake behind them.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. It really was.
We hung out with a bunch of misfits, and we were all scraggly looking, kind of rock and roll, punkish looking, and it was Corrosion of Conformity was supposed to play, and Sunday School or somebody, I don't even know if they were supposed to play, but, so we showed up there, you know, we got to the door with our tickets in the hand, and the guys at the door were like, all right, the band's here. Thinking we were COC. It was too much. We were like, man, too bad we don't have instruments.
Yeah. But one real vivid memory was we were moshing around, you know, and just having a good old time. It was real friendly back then, you know, and it wasn't violent or anything. And I remember I looked, I saw something sliding across the floor. It was Stefan on his back, sliding backwards across the floor. Somebody had hit it, you know, had knocked him down, and he was just sliding on that floor. It was so slick, you know. It's really funny, man. I was like, Jesus, you know, but then everybody helped you up, and we carried on.
Yeah, everyone would just grab you and just keep going.
Yeah. You know, we went to punk shows and weren't, you know, like, didn't look like punks. Of course, we didn't have the clothes. We had to make our own shirts. Like
all the time.
So, it was hard to look
I made my own studded bracelets.
We didn't have any idea either what punks really should look like at the beginning, because in Savannah, we didn't get no information, you know. I mean,
after high school, we were always into, like, rock and roll. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, all that stuff, which is great. But most of my friends, I started listening to punk rock, and they weren't really into it, you know.
Black Flag.
Black Flag was the original band that kind of got me going into punk. And a guy at Mark at Tandy Leather, I used to make bracelets all the time, so I'd go to Tammy Leather, and was it Avatar?
Avatar Productions.
Avatar Productions. Yeah. Go on. And so being in there, he was always like, hey, you want to go to a show? And I'm like, hell yeah. We never had any money, so a couple dollars or $5 for a show was enticing.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun, too.
The second show I promoted was the one in Hilton Head, Stevie Stiletto.
Yeah.
Another good show.
We got a funny story about that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
What the hell? We were moshing. It was only like 20 people there, I think.
Well, what happened
was... It wasn't real big.
There was a ton of people outside. Nobody wanted to pay to get in, so they were just sitting outside listening to the music.
All the cheap, rich Hilton Head kids.
Yeah. So
they were all Savannah kids. There wasn't very many Hilton Head people there. Everybody had driven over from Savannah. Jim Kelly.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I remember Jim. Yeah, so there wasn't a lot of people inside. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And Stevie Stiletto was doing a show at the Freebird Live, I think.
Wow, still around.
Yeah, and, you know, it was like I don't think he's performed in a while, so it was like he was doing this one show, and I don't know if it was a benefit or something, but it was interesting to hear about him again, you know, because like I say, we listened to that record all the time, and we loved that show. Remember, it's when we first started going to those shows, I want to say at Phoebe's, the first show we went to, we made our own punk rock shirts. We spray painted. Do you remember that? Right. In your apartment up above the garage at parents' old house.
Golly,
we spray painted like I don't even remember.
Well, I was always making like stencils, Black Flag,
Right.
punk rock,
Yes.
any outlandish saying or something, fuck off, whatever.
Yeah, that's
so
right,
it's
yeah.
possible that we did do that. I can't remember making T-shirts.
Yeah. But Phoebe's was great. I mean, you know, it was just such a foreign scene for us at that time. Because in Savannah, if it wouldn't have been for, I mean, Stephen said this a while back, if it wouldn't have been for the shows at Phoebe's and other shows, that we would have been stuck with going to River Street and stuff on a Saturday night, you know, with the rest of rednecks and military personnel and getting in fights and stuff. You know, so there was at one night that we went there, it was Dead Elvis and I think Agnostic Front and I don't know. There was like 6 bands. Well, the bands, there was so many. He had the flyer, an Abattoir Productions flyer, and he would pull it out and say, "Which band is this?" And he'd pull it out, and we'd try to look and guess which band it was, you know.
Of course, we didn't know all the bands.
That thing was, at the end of the night, we pulled it out, and it was like in tatters. Well, I remember 15 years later, we still had that flyer somewhere. Wow. You don't have it anymore. Yeah. But it was funny being in Phoebe's, and it was kind of like the bar was separated.
Yeah,
and the
2 rooms.
Black people were like over there, the regulars were drinking and looking.
Now, where was Phoebe's?
It was on Norwood. I don't know where that's.
Yeah, Norwood or Ferguson, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And it was an odd place for a show. It was close to our house, you know.
What's the noise?
We didn't know you that well.
Right.
That's for sure. You know, more, you know, just from seeing you around at shows. Like, and I think we, you know, of course we talked, but I didn't really get to know you until later on probably in the early 90s, something like that. You know, start of the Spo-it. I was talking to some punk girl, and I can't remember where I was, in what context, but she was talking about Savannah, being at some of the shows in Savannah, and she said, "Yeah, man, you guys had plenty of skinhead punks there, you know." And I was like, I don't remember that. And then it came to me, it was the military guys, you know, they weren't skinhead, they were military.
Oh yeah, we had
you know what I mean?
Stranger. Well, some of them were military and Nazi skinheads.
Well,
yeah, sure.
Because the Nazi skinheads hated me, because I kept calling them idiots, and I would just...
It seemed like at a lot of the shows, I do sort of remember this, if a band wouldn't show up, it was, who was it that would...
Sunday school.
Sunday school or Disturbed Jennifer, always filled in, you know, like it was almost like they had their instruments and they were ready off stage, and like as soon as
for the phone to ring.
Yeah, and as soon as the band didn't show up, they were like ready to play, you know.
And they were there. It seemed like for the start of the show.
Instantaneous,
amazing.
you know, yeah. You know, it all gets mixed together and mixed up, and you know, I don't want to. You know,
it's all like one big show to me.
Yeah.
Like just being in Phoebe's. The only show that I felt set the place up different was the Circle Jerks, and they put them in the big room. I think they were the same size, but they put them in the big room. And I remember me and Ed Child were sitting up on top of the bar, and like these army guys just coming between us and diving into the crowd.
I remember that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we met up and we went to dinner. We went to this Mexican restaurant on Broughton Street. It's Juarez or what, it's still there. And and we're in there, and so we finished eating and we started drinking, and one of the cooks had just gotten off work, Mexican guy, you know, and we started talking to him. He had a beer with us or whatever, and we were like, well, what are we going to do tonight? And I said, well, there's this show at Bay Street Bar. Well, let's go there, you know. And we invited the Mexican guy to come with us, the cook, you know. So he says, sure, I'll go, you know. So all 3 of us, we walked down, you know, down to Bay Street Bar. And we get in there, and of course, Spo-it show. It was a great show. Like, and we were right in the front, all three of us. And you know, like there was sparks just flying basically on our face and stuff. And I'm looking at the Mexican guy, and he's just like looking like he had never seen anything, you know, like that, you know. And I remember like there was a computer monitor came out, and we started smashing it, and I got in this mode, I remember it vividly, of like, it was a representation of technology that I hated, and I just started stomping it and smashing it, you know. I didn't even own a computer at the time, you know. Like I was fighting something that I didn't even have the equipment to fight, you know, whatever. Anyway, so, and we got in really carried away, you know, and there was a coffee table there, and the lights were kind of out. It was real dark in there. And so me and Hunter, I said, let's get that coffee table. Me and Hunter of all people, right?
Yeah.
Grab the coffee table, and we're going to just smash it. We had it up over our heads, and the guy that owned the place cut the power and turned on all the lights right then. And I looked, and he was looking right at me like that. We were getting ready to smash this coffee table. Oh man, it was so funny.
Just bust anything up.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a frenzy. It was so much fun, man.
All the furniture in that place got busted that night. That
Wow.
table did get busted.
Oh, did it?
You ended up like tossing it down. All the chairs, all the bar stools. People were throwing everything into the damn pile.
Yeah, that's great.
It was a long time before they'd let us do another show there. And I was booking the fucking Bay Street Bar.
Yeah.
That's what we're not going to talk about went on there.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff that's not going to make the documentary.
Yeah. Well, that space was notorious. It's so funny to walk in there now because it's Churchill's now, you know. And it's so funny to walk in there now because in the mid to late 80s, it was Ollie Mae's. It was the only biker bar in downtown.
Heavy metal bar. I remember going to Ollie Mae's. I would go there and we'd watch the fucking South Georgia metal.
Sure, that's right. Yeah.
They'd be all in Spanish. I love that place.
Yeah. No, it was great.
And wasn't that also the gallery space? Was the gallery in there? Or was the gallery next door?
I can't remember. Yeah, well, that is two spaces. So.
It was either right there or it was like right next door was the gallery for all those years.
Right.
After Ollie Mae's. I think it's the same space.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And then after that, it was the Bay Street Bar.
That's right. Yeah.
And
I used to go to the Lamppost, and I can't remember if I went to shows there, but I'm pretty sure I did. But it's really funny. The Lamppost used to have this black chick. She was like an Amazon stripper. It was always stripping there, you know. And she was like the house stripper or whatever, you know. And it's funny, man. Like I was thinking about her and, you know, those old times and, you know, and he goes, do you remember the Lamppost? And I said, hell yeah, I remember the Lamppost. I said, what about that big black stripper that worked there? And he said, man, I worked the door at the Lamppost for years, you know, after, you know, military or whatever. And he was like, man, that girl, you wouldn't believe it. When she first started working, she worked there for years. And when she first started working there, she was gorgeous. And as time went along, she got into like drugs and prostitution. And her looks just went down, you know, finally to where, you know, she looked at the end when I probably was, you know, in there seeing.
Big gas cycles.
Yeah, I went to one of those shows. Spo-it shows.
There's a buddy I work with. He's like, man, did you ever go to those shows? He's my mutual alternative music friend at work now, you know. And he'd given me a bunch of music. But he was telling me, I was telling him about the Phoebe shows, and he was saying, I used to go to these shows, man, they'd be throwing TVs off the roof and busting all kinds of shit up.
That was a great venue, actually.
Man.
I remember the one show.
I missed all of it.
we did the one show where we got to throw the TVs off the roof. And it was just my idea from like SCTV, you know, to start the thing out of throw. So I had somebody up on the fucking roof with a bunch of TVs, and I said, wait till our show starts, and then start tossing the TVs to land in front of the band.
Right.
So I didn't ask any permission or anything.
Right. But then I remember going to another Spo-it show at that. Scott rented a whole building basically on Broughton Street. How much did it was like $600 a month or something?
It was some incredibly small amount of money, and I was leasing it to buy it.
It's a huge whole building, man. It's multiple stories tall. It was incredible.
Had
right on Broughton.
Quite a few shows in there.
Just one.
Yeah, it was. I just remember smashing. Everybody was smashing stuff. And there was something with a bed spring.
The bed of pain. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
We were
Throw yourself against.
We were beaten. We had a box spring, metal box spring, and you can't find those anymore. I've been looking for another one. And we would grind on it, and we would tie people to it, and we would beat them.
Yeah.
And you grind on it, it would cut that steel, it would get sharp. So there was all like knives all over that fucking thing.
Yeah.
So getting anywhere near it, your clothes would get caught in it. You'd get, start to get cut and all this kind of shit. And people would just love to bounce up and down on it and get all cut up and all this sort of stuff.
Hey man, I remember Kenzel rented space there from you. Was one of the people that was renting the space, and they kind of in the demolition of whatever he was demolishing, he found a really old Playboy in the wall. It's like a '64 or something Playboy, yeah, that had been in there all those years. It's really cool. Yeah, that was I couldn't believe that whole building. That was how it was back then. That was one time it was a drugstore. Yes, I'm sure I saw you at Devin Michaels.
That place was just too small for Spo-it. Because we were big by the time that Devin Michaels was the last place we could play in town.
Well, that was the thing. I think, because I knew Michael real well, and I think he told me, oh, we're having the Spo-its play. I'm like, you're having the Spo-its play there? I'm thinking the whole, it'll just be destroyed, everything inside.
A burnt hole in the middle of Broughton.
That's right, yeah. I was like, I don't know about that. He was enthusiastic about it, but he was a great guy, He was always an optimist, so,
And we never did smash the place up.
Yeah. Scott we'd go to Vinny's, we'd all sit at Vinny's. We'd go to Vinny's a lot and sit around, and every time he would order this Mexican pussy pizza, and it was anchovies, anchovies, jalapenos, onions, and garlic, or something like that.
Oh,
and all of our pizzas coming out, and we're all starving, in those days we were, we didn't eat enough, probably. So when we did eat, we were starving. And you could smell the thing from like 5 feet away, man.
Pizza.
You know what I mean? It was like, I was like, Jesus Christ, how does he eat that? It's hilarious, But I hated the Savannah police because, we always did, because they weren't friendly at all, to anyone. And I mean, back in those days, it really didn't matter if you were skinhead or if you had long hair. I mean, I didn't have terribly long hair then, but I had hair, Well, nobody really cared, except the police. They didn't like you if you had long hair or if you had
short
skinhead.
hair.
Yeah.
Riding a skateboard.
Probably just
a bicycle.
young people they hated. I don't know. I have no idea why. But it was a stupid thing, for them to be so concerned about the wrong thing, I mean,
I think basically it was youth.
Yeah.
They
couldn't stand
prejudiced to youth. Because, I remember just getting hassled standing around somewhere or walking down the street. What are you doing here? Well, I'm walking to my buddy's house. Well, you're not supposed to be walking around here. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Savannah cops.